So for lesson 4.5, we're going to solve nonlinear equations. All that means is that we have an equation that's quadratic. It looks like a U, and a linear equation. Sometimes those two lines cross twice. This is my quadratic. This is my linear. And if they cross twice, we have two solutions. Sometimes they only touch, so it's one solution. And sometimes they don't touch at all, so it's no solution. These are the steps we're going to use to solve for them. But some of the things that you're going to need to know is how to find the square root of a number and how to solve for y. So to find the square root of 36, it's going to be 6 and 6. But because we are going to solve, you also need to use -6 and -6. Same thing for the 64. To get 64, you multiply 8 times 8. But because we're solving, you also have to use the -8. Now, to solve for y, all that means is that we need to isolate the y or get it by itself. So in this case, you can do a few things. I'm going to move the 3 that way. So I'm going to subtract the 3 from both sides. I have x squared and x, but I can't subtract the 3 from them because they're not like terms. So I'm going to subtract it at the end, like that. Now, I need the y by itself. There's a -1 in front of it, so I need to get rid of it. It's being multiplied, so I do the opposite and divide by -1 everywhere. So I get -x squared minus x plus 3 equal to y. That's how we solve for y. That's for a quadratic. For a linear, it's a lot easier because all I have to do is move the 5x that way, so I subtract it. When I subtract the 5x, I can't really subtract it from the 8. It's not going to be 3. So I just put them next to each other because they're not like terms. So something like that. Okay, so now we're going to solve this problem. Notice we have a quadratic and a linear equation. These are the steps we had before. We're going to follow these steps. First step 1 says that the equations equal to each other, where y is equal to y. So this one's already y equals. This one's not. So I need to fix my linear. The 2x needs to go that way. So it's just y equals -1 minus 2x. You change the signs when I move it that way. And now it's y equals -1 minus 2x. So when we say y equal to y, we mean quadratic equal to linear, where the quadratic is x squared minus 2x minus 1, and the linear is -1 minus 2x. So that step is done. Step 2 is making the standard form. The key here is to have it equal to 0. Right now, it's not equal to 0. It's equal to this mess right here. So I'm going to move this that way. So I do the opposite and add 1 to both sides. -1 plus 1 is 0, so it's gone. And the 2x I also need to move, so I'm going to do the opposite and add 2x to both sides. Also gone, so I have x squared equal to 0, which might be really weird. It might be really odd, but hey, I solved it. I'm done. I can say that I did that step. You have to trust the steps. The next step is to solve using the quadratic formula. So I need to know what a is, b and c is. So a is easy because here's my x squared, so it's 1. B is not there, c is not there. So when I solve, I have d equals b squared minus 4ac. I'm using this formula right here. So I have 0 minus 4 times 1 times 0, which is 0. So 0. When d is equal to 0, that tells you you have one solution. Remember, d is your determinant. If the determinant is equal to 0, you have one solution because your graph crosses once. If d is a positive number, you have two solutions because the graph crosses twice. If d is negative, you have no real solutions because those are the imaginary ones, so the graph don't cross at all. So for this one, I have one real solution. To find that solution, I have to solve for x. I'm looking for this point where the two lines cross, so it has to be a point. I have to have an x and a y value. I must finish step 3 so I can find what the x value is. It's -b. b was 0, plus or minus the square root of 0 over 2 times a, which was 1. Square root of 0 is 0. Plus 0, that's still going to be 0. Divided by 2, it's still 0. So it looks like my x value is 0. So if I know x equal to 0, then I can solve for my y value. using my equations here, either the quadratic or the linear. I'm going to use the linear because I think it looks more simple. So y is -1 minus 2x. To solve, I plug in my x value. X value was 0. And then I can finish solving from there. It's -1. 2 times 0 is 0. So it's gone. So that means my solution, the point where the two lines are going to cross, is 0, -1. Out of that work for that simple thing. For this problem, we're going to do the same steps. Notice these are already solved for y. So step 1 is to set them equal to each other. Step 2 is to make it in standard form. So I need to move everything one side. Like that. So again, all you do is move these terms that way by doing the opposite. You combine them with the like terms, the one that looks similar to them. Now that I have this, my next step is to solve for x using the quadratic formula. So I have a equals 1, b equals 4, c equals 3. We start by finding the discriminant. That's b squared minus 4ac. Easiest thing to do here is to type it in decimals and see what you got. That should be 16 minus 12, which is 4. It's a positive number. Positive number means that my graph crosses. My linear and my quadratic cross, so there's two solutions. So I need to find 2 points where they cross. To find them, first I have to find the x value, so -b plus or minus square root of the discriminant over 2 times a. This is -b. This is the discriminant. And this is the a value. Once I have those numbers, I know -4 plus or minus square root of 4 is 2. And this should give me 2 solutions. So I'm going to separate to the positive and the minus. -4 plus 2 divided by 2. It helps if you type it on the calculator or on decimals, whatever you feel more comfortable. That should be -1. And the bottom one should be -3. So I have two x values. I have x equals -3 and I have x equals -1. So I have to find both y values for those. Again, I recommend you using the y equation, the linear equation. For this one, my linear equation was -8x minus 1. So I'm going to plug in the x values to both. On this first one, it's going to look like that. So that's my y value. So I have my first solution when x is -3, my y is 23. My second solution, replace my x value with -1. That's 8 minus 1, so it's 7. So when x is -1, y is 7. And those are my answers.